Hi, my name is Carrie Jo Gross. I am a K-8 visual arts teacher at Most Pure Heart of Mary in Topeka, Kansas. This is only my second year teaching, so I don't have as much experience as many of you, but I'm really looking forward to learning a lot this semester. My path to teaching included having a Bachelor's of Fine Arts, a degree in cosmetology. I was a small business owner. I worked in advertising for WIBW TV. I was the community liaison for the station, so I got to be a part of Chamber of Commerce and Leadership Greater Topeka. I got to be involved with a lot of the nonprofit agencies. My boss would loan me out for a while and have me do work for them. So I've had a lot of really varied experiences. I had a lot of fun learning. I was a disability examiner for the state of Kansas for a number of years, so I've read medical records and IEPs and evaluated disability claims to determine whether or not people are eligible for Social Security disability based on their mental or physical health impairments. It was about as cumbersome as it sounds. So currently I have this job that's everything I've ever been and part of everything that I ever wanted to be. 2014, I learned about the transition to teaching program through the state of Kansas. I was able to, get a teaching license with my Bachelor's of Fine Arts. So I started doing things to build my resume so I would have more qualifications in the teaching field. I started working as a teacher in the nights. I would work as a teacher at local artist shops and do workshops and presentations and those sorts of things. I was involved with, painting and being part of shows and competitions to help build my resume, build my repertoire. And after a couple of years of doing those things, I ended up getting a job at my children's school. So I work with my children, Amelia 8 and Lillian, Amelia 11 and Lillian 8, my two favorite students. I know we're not supposed to have favorites, but I do. There they are. So switching over to more of the assignment part of this introduction, talking about the mindsets and dispositions, I really didn't have a lot that I disagreed with in any of these articles. A lot of it I felt was spot on, and they really made some great observations. Learning a lot about the growth mindset, coming into the field of education, growth mindset wasn't necessarily something phrased the way that we had it phrased to us when I came into education. So that power of yet and that all students can learn, that's been really inspiring to me. Something that was new through these articles was the teamwork outperforms talent. And I really agree with that. I love this quote, "The smartest person in the room is always the room." It really speaks to the spirit of collaboration, and I think I see that so much in education, and it's been really inspiring to me because coming from the world of communications and advertising, everybody wants to be a guru, everybody wants to be the expert. But in education, we all sort of has our niche that we teach, but we all use this same basic paradigm, and we all, look at education in similar ways. So working together, we can really accomplish more. And happiness is a choice has been my motto for a long time. I'm always saying, say it and it'll be so. And people tease me for being so positive. But I believe it's true. If you say that you're going to do something and you start working on ways to get there, you'll make it. And it's as simple as that. So dispositions of a successful school leader, one thing that I really wanted to pick out of here was the empathetically assertive. A lot of times leaders can often be either overly assertive or kind of a pushover. And I really felt that the empathetically assertive was a really great way of phrasing that mindset that is really helpful in understanding the people that you're working with and really knowing yourself and being able to be stern and uphold what needs to be upheld, but do it in a way that is human. And that was, when you're looking at the practices examining feedback and data. Well, I come from a world of that. Gathering information as a disability examiner, or gathering information as a digital marketer, or whatever. But the same is true. Teachers do that. You know, you talk about formative assessments. We talk about looking at you know, where learners are, where they need to be, looking at if they're catching on in the ways that we do that. And we're constantly doing that as educators. But leaders need to do that too, because they're looking at the ship that they're trying to steer, and they're looking at, you know, where do we need to be and how are we going to get there? Emotional intelligence is something, and I think that goes back to the empathetically assertive. You have to have emotional intelligence. You need to be able to sort of read the crowd in order to be a leader. So there's really no way that I can disagree with any of those things. I really, switching gears, the principles of ethical leadership, I really felt this article was pretty inspiring, and it really it connected to a lot of other things that I was just thinking in my mind. So really quickly, personal courage, I attributed that to like standing up for what you know to be right, and having that courage. And I think that these top two, there's a tricky interplay, because this utilitarian idea of public interest ahead of self, sometimes what self is, I mean, sometimes the public interest is contrary to what you know to be best for the greatest number of people. I'm not saying that right. The greatest amount of good for the greatest number of people, this utilitarian idea, sometimes the mass majority, the public, you have to stand up, and you have to have the personal courage to know to be right. So I think those two, they're not independent of each other. They're interdependent. Self-control, it's interesting that they listed that one next, because temperance, like that ability to have moderation of action, that, you know, it's important to have courage. It's important to be assertive, but you have to moderate that. And, you know, self-control can be a lot of things. It can be, you know, your temper. It can be, you know, controlling your passions when you know that you need to kind of step it back a little bit and put public interest ahead of yourself. So all of these things work together, you know, and you could just go on forever. I've already hit 8 minutes, so I'll try to wrap it up. But my thoughts. Principles of ethical leadership. My thoughts, if I look at myself, and specifically the principles of ethical leadership, things that I am really good at. Courage, public interest ahead of self. I'm really good at looking at the bigger picture, and sometimes it's not what I want, but it's what needs to happen, so that's what I'm going to do. I currently sit on Leadership Council along with my principal for the overarching umbrella organization. I am also part of the Leadership Council for the organization, and so a lot of things that I'm currently doing. So I've practiced these things a lot outside of just the classroom. But so those are my strengths: personal courage, public interest ahead of self, self-control, sensitivity and understanding, inclusiveness, and high ethics. But high ethics is a tricky one, because it's really hard to hold people accountable and do that with emotional intelligence and not make people feel like you're judging or being too critical. So my areas for growth: task and employee centeredness, and recognizing talent. I think part of just because I'm new to education, I'm not really great at collaborating yet. You know, I'm the only art teacher. The art program is new. It didn't exist before me. So I'm doing a lot to build. And this year I'm really focusing on how can I work with others. So trying to collaborate more, try to do more projects that, are cross-disciplined, those sorts of things, and making myself better by learning from other people and trying to lend my strengths and try to gain their talents. And so those are things that I'm working on, and those where I'm growing. So there's my reference slide. Thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to sharing the semester with you.